obviously came to Reed Street Shul a lot. And even on a holiday when you're not supposed to drive, I remember Mickey pulling up in front of a black limousine, going in to see his mom, kissing his mom and coming out and throwing us a little change. So those were the two images that jumped out.
That's true Jewish alms, right? Mickey coming, dropping coins for you. That's right. As our last question, I wanted, well, our second to last, because there's a finale question, but the last true question is I wanted to talk a little bit about, both for us, but also for everybody here, about, Boyle Heights right now, one of the main issues Boyle Heights is facing as a neighborhood is a kind of double-pronged version of gentrification. And there's a lot of debates and discussions about the ongoing gentrification of Boyle Heights. But at the same time, Boyle Heights has been the kind of poster child for what many in the neighborhood are calling the gentrification of Boyle Heights. That the gentrification is happening from within by Mexican Americans in the neighborhood who are revitalizing spaces, not to increase rents necessarily, but revitalizing spaces to revitalize community, to use commercial spaces as community and political spaces in the neighborhood, like Espacio 1839, a number of different venues, Libros Migros, lots of, there's a number now. And I'm just wondering, in each of your work, what's been your experience with the economic changes and the community changes going on in the neighborhood right now, and how music might be a part of these conversations? It's open to anybody who has experience with it.
Well, I would love to be able to buy a home here, somewhere in here, I think that the businesses that are popping up, I think it's important, especially if they serve the community and really take that into consideration. I think the great work that East Los Angeles Community Corporation is doing is really trying to incorporate that, be mindful, learn from other spaces, and how I think certain communities have been displaced in the history of this, Los Angeles in general, right? And being very mindful of that, right? That there's people here, people just like we're celebrating the history of the Jewish community here and all these wonderful memories. People have continued to make memories, right? As these places were left, other people inhabited them, and we also have created memories. I have memories as well, and from this space, and the day that our home was bought by, we were always renters. But our home on Bezoid Street was bought by a Mexicano family, and she wanted to move in her family, and so we had to leave. And I remember feeling so, we moved for that reason. We didn't really choose to move, but I remember being really sad about that, feeling like it was my house, and that I had grown up there. My father had left before then, so we had made a life there, my mom and all of us, and it just felt like the worst thing in the world to be displaced. So I know what that is like. A Mexicano family took over that house, but we kept moving east, right? But it's very real, and this idea around displacement, right? And I think that in the history of Jewish culture, you all know what that's like, And I think that the city and all of these different organizations, it's great to see that we're working together to really try to be mindful of our memories and what we would like to see with the spaces, what we remember about them, but also how we can work with communities that are there, right? And that also want the best for the space and for the people that are there, that have also built communities there. I think that's to continue to have these dialogues so that we can really honor everybody's memory.
Well, when Quetzal was nominated for a Grammy in 2012, the night before the Grammys in Los Angeles is a big party night. So everyone who's nominated will try to throw their little parties the night before, and of course the big parties the next night. But the night before, the kind of warm-up parties all around. And Quetzal you guys could have held your party anywhere, and you held it here, and you didn't hold it for you. You held a fandango with many of the bands you were nominated with, and it happened in this space. Could you just share a little bit about why you made that choice?
Well, Quetzal Flores is here, and that's the guy I married. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, come here, Quetzal. This is, give him another, he's the guy that married me. Give him a big hand. Because, you know, I can't take credit. He's the guy that really said, you know what, rather than go to that Grammy party they invited us to where we get our medals, he's all, that, we're gonna go, I think we're gonna do something else then.
So, I'll try to make a very long story short. So, you know, the history of the band has been, you know, really tied to the idea of community and community building, and so the idea came about because folks from different Fandango communities sort of told us we had to do it. And so there was two parties. There was one the night before this one at a small space in Sereno called the Eastside Cafe. And that was a Fandango, and that went on all night long. And so we were pretty tired, and the next day we said, in organizing this event, it was like, okay, well, we always feel really weird kind of self-promoting. And so it was like, well, you know, we really don't want to just have an event and, you know, and promote that we got nominated for a Grammy, but there's all these other folks that we're related to that have been nominated previously or that currently are nominated. So let's just have a party for everybody, and then let's invite some folks like George Lipsitz and you know the list, Josh, and all these other people. Let's get them on stage.
The list.
Yeah. Let's get these folks on stage and get them to kind of contextualize this idea, like what it means for these bands, for this community that are all related and have a deep connection to one another, to have an event at this space in Boyle Heights. And then we met with the folks from the Shul, and they were really gracious, and they were like, yes, have it here, let's do it. And it became this sort of community party, more than, you know, a concert to celebrate the Grammys or whatever. It became a community party and a recognition that, yes, the East Side has a tremendous trajectory of music and culture and richness, and that is to be celebrated.
Okay.
With Pachuco Hawk.
Pachuco Hawk, which was performed and recorded by Chuck Higgins.
Pachuco Hawk was actually recorded, Ruben or whatever, but Chuck Higgins.
Chuck Higgins. Chuck Higgins, African American, lived in Lisa Village, and is a crucial Boyle Heights song. So I thought what we would do, Martha, back to the Be Still, is I'd love to just to thank all of you for coming. I'd like to thank the whole Let's be still and listen to Be Still, and then I'd like to open it up so we can share a few stories and questions. How does that sound as a plan of attack? Sound good? Let's listen to a little bit of Be Still.
it's not a question, it's a reflection. When everybody was talking about gentrification and what it might be doing to the neighborhood of Indian, wow. The first thing I thought of was they put the Starbucks in for Gage, and it was so weird. And then I thought, but what's really good about that is that Tierra Mia is a local coffee company, local, more I think maybe Lincoln Heights and Boyle Heights, but local to East Coast, and they have exported into the Echo Park Silver Lake area, and they've also been on a list on Huffington Post as one of the top 10 coffee places in LA. And that's out of this area and out of this community. So they're gentrifying them on the other side of the river.
Reflection. I grew up in Boyle Heights, and every Sunday I used to go to the Angelus Hall when Johnny Otis used to play there, and he had these three singers and 3 Tons of Joy. It was from 4 to 8, and I think I went there for 3 years, from 1954 to about 1956 or 57.
Thank you.
And I like what you go hop.
Hi, my name is Daniel French. This is a really fruitful conversation. I wanted to just take a second to invite people. There's going to be a week of bridge building events between Little Tokyo and Boyle Heights. The Boyle Heights Community Youth Orchestra is going to perform at Mariachi Plaza on the 24th. And we're co-promoting the Fandango Obono event on Sunday with Quetzal and crew. I'm curious, like Marta, you said music is one of the best tools for building community in your conversation. And so I'm curious if anybody has stories of like Japanese music and how that's connected to like Mexican or Jewish music in Boyle Heights, especially given that history here.
It's a great, really important question that we haven't touched on. And I actually maybe, can I put you on the spot a little bit? With that?
Well, hello, and thank you for the kind remarks, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. I was fortunate to be involved with the Japanese American National Museum in 2002 when they had an exhibition on the history of Boyle Heights. And I was asked to put together a music list of music from East LA from the beginning of the 20s all the way through, at that time, 2002. And so I compiled a list of, I went out to find records that I could find, and there were some Japanese American bands. They had big bands going on. And I found one record, I forget the title, but it was a woman singer, and I put that on the list. We had created like a jukebox, and all these different records from all the different eras, klezmer, boogie woogie, boleros, rancheras, and then we had these Japanese American big bands. So there were big bands in the 40s. There's going to be a performance, I think, next week. I'm not sure of the date, but it's going to be highlighting people that were incarcerated during World War II. And the music that they listened to, a lot of it was the big bands. A lot of them will be Japanese American big bands. So check it out. One quick thing about gentrification, that's really on my head right now, pressing hard. I want to organize a welcoming committee for all those that come into Boyle Heights, the developers, the interlopers, or whoever. And they got to sign a commitment to a code of ethics, expectations of what they will do to enhance and continue the legacy of Boyle Heights. If not, get out.
Technically, that would be a welcome. But let me add on the important bridging question about Japanese music and Japanese American issues that was asked about really quick. Is one of the groups I mentioned in my opening remarks, the Nisei Serenaders, cut a couple of sides. East LA Taiko obviously have been crucial to this, which I'm sure you know about. But also with Little Tokyo, to look at, and you can find this online, the Atomic Cafe, the late Atomic Cafe, which was kind of curated by Atomic Nancy, the Japanese cafe, that she ran a jukebox in the Atomic Cafe, that when it became the hub of kind of the LA punk scene and kind of the after hours LA punk scene, they had an incredible jukebox that had Japanese music, punk, rock, R&B, and Dublab.com did an interview with her a few years ago where she curated about 15 tracks that are online that are her, it's like her representation of what the Atomic Cafe jukebox was. So that could be helpful in the stuff you're doing.
An early manifestations of guitar also had taiko drums in it, by the way.
Josh has been very good jazz band. Most of the members grew up in Boyle Heights.
Hiroshima, and Atomic Nancy is their daughter.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Mr. Adler, you mentioned Mickey Cohen and his mother going Shul here. My grandparents met at Hava Cohen's Deli. Married as a result. And then we would occasionally see Mickey's brothers, Louie and Sam, because they were second cousins to my father. So I guess I'm related in some respects to the underworld, but I try my best to be an upstanding citizen.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Yes. Over here? In the front over here? Of course, Sherry. You wore the wrong shoes, Sherry.
I just wanted to mention I was born in Boyle Heights, but I left when I was about 10. My dad was a graduate of Roosevelt. And my uncle, and I only found this out fairly recently, I found out that he was the substitute drummer for the Johnny Otis band at the Club Alabama. And I only found this out because I Googled his name and it popped up this excerpt from a book. There's there's a Black Studies professor at UC Santa Barbara. Yeah, in his book, he's in his book, and then I also mentioned that he played with Don Toski, and unfortunately he had addiction and mental problems that cut his career short, but he also started the jazz band at Poston. When he was 17 years old.
What was his name?
His name was Hideo Kawano. Yeah, and he was, really into music, and I was really young when he was into it, so I didn't get to really talk to him. It was kind of interesting when my late aunt passed away several years ago. I was going through some pictures that she had, and she had a picture of her and my uncle. My uncle must have only been about 13. And it was with Frank Sinatra and the Tommy Dorsey Band at their inaugural appearance at the Hollywood Palladium in 1940. So I think what was really interesting about the whole thing was, at that time, people got around LA. Now it's kind of Balkanized because of the transportation problem, but at that time, people walked, people took streetcars, people took buses, people, rode together with their friends. And I even remember when I was a kid, I had memories of going on the R car and the P car, and I remember I had relatives that lived on Santa Barbara at that time. It's now King. And I used to get on the bus, take 2 buses, and get there from Boyle Heights. And it would be unthinkable today for a 10-year-old kid to do that. So I think that's a good point. I think Boyle Heights really started to have problems. I don't know if this is the only cause, but when they started building all those freeways, all of LA became very balkanized. Everybody retreated to their cars, and this sort of fear and paranoia crept in. And that kind of cut off all the communication between the different communities. But my uncle used to hang out at in Central, so it was much different LA before the war.
Thank you for that.
Over your discussion and such, I kept thinking about a purchase I made at a place called Johnson's Market on Winger Boulevard. And I was at that time living in Seattle, and I saw all these records for sale. And it was like the same old stuff, and these were vinyl records. And this one was yellow. And it was called the East Side Review. I do not know if you know of it. And anyway, I took it back up to Seattle, and I played it to these people with their Nordic ancestry, Russian ancestry, Polish ancestry, Spanish and such. Anyway, they went nuts. They said, where did this music come from? What is this? And anyway, one of the top hit makers from that, not necessarily that record, it was Cannibal and the Headhunters. And I don't know if you remember them, but I think other people that you have mentioned are on that record, and it'd be, somebody ripped it off me, but I wish I had it, or if any of you know how you can find out about who made that record. It is just a great history of this area. All right, thank you.
And if we can get a good copy, we'll add it to the History in a Box collection. Do we have time for one more, Sherry? One more, and then we gotta close up and we can have informal conversations.
Lou, I'd like to thank you for everything you've done in the instrumental ways of music from way back when. I remember as a kid, Mamas and Papas, all the way up to Cheech and Chong through the 70s in high school. And also, young lady, I'd like to thank you. I have a friend, his band is called Lamar Raga in East LA, and Marita, my wife, is correcting me. My Spanish is not very good. But they're really up and coming. And young lady, being the teacher that you are and teaching as much as you do in school with music and everything, I know you're doing it from the heart and not the money, because I know a few teachers out there that are broke. So I want to thank all three of you, and thank you for having us here.
That's a great note. I really want to thank Shul for hosting all of this. We're going to end with some final announcements. Looks like there's goodie bags or something.
There is a goodie bag. I just wanted to thank all of our guests again. And I just want to emphasize that they're all here free of charge. They didn't ask us for any money or an honorarium or anything. And so instead of that, Martha, they're getting mole. One of these days, we would like to be able to do this series and give an honorarium, but we won't be able to do that without your help. So please, we put donation envelopes in your programs. If you can, please try to leave us a little something as thanks for these people and their time. And I hope you join us again for another
Good for you, George.